This week on Football Playbook. The Big Tuna jets to San Francisco Bay as New York visits the 49ers. John Gruden leads the new-look Oakland Raiders into Kansas City to do battle with the Chiefs. Plus, the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos host the New England Patriots at Mile High. All that and more today on the premiere edition of Football Playbook.
45!
Welcome to the debut of Football Playbook, and you've got to be excited because it's the first day of the 1998 National Football League season. I'm Scott Kaplan, and with me all season long will be a couple of coaches who've got some very serious Super Bowl experience. Sam Wyche, you, sir, the only man to ever go to a Super Bowl as a player, an assistant coach, a head coach in 1989 with the Cincinnati Bengals, and a network broadcaster. Sam, we're happy you're here.
And I'm ready to go.
All right, now we flip the coin over here. Marv Levy, you, sir, also a statistic exclusive to you. The only man ever to go to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. You're the former coach of the Buffalo Bills. We're relying on your expertise, Marv.
Well, thank you. Let's kick it off.
Marv, like the good old days, going up against each other.
Yes, it is, Sam, and I'll tell you what. If you promise not to run the no huddle, I won't either.
No promises. Okay.
All right, guys, I don't want to have to call any penalties here, so let's just keep it down. Each week, we're going to break down the top matchups in the National Football League, and to do this, of course, we're relying on the expertise of our two coaches. All the statistical information provided by our website, sportsline.com. Plus, Sportsline USA's veteran national columnist Ray Buck is going to be here to give us last-minute information from around the league. We're going to have injuries, up-to-the-minute weather conditions, and much more. It's all part of the Football Playbook. Gentlemen, what do you say? We jump right into it?
Ready to go.
All right, game one. It's in the Meadowlands. The 1997 NFC East champion, the New York Football Giants. They're going to host their division rival, the Washington Redskins. Now, one of the things you're not going to find elsewhere is up-to-the-date weather. With the latest conditions from the Meadowlands, here's Jennifer Cole. She's standing by in our weather center. Jennifer.
Hello, Scott. It's great to be here. At Giants Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the forecast provided by AccuWeather calls for a beautiful day in the New York area. Forecast calls for sunny skies and a temperature of 84 degrees. And guys, as you know, the Giants have won 7 of the last 10 games at home against Washington. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks very much, Jennifer. Key injury in the preseason for the football Giants, the loss of cornerback Jason Sehorn. Marv, this is really a big loss.
It's a heartbreaking loss. To lose him on a kickoff return play during the preseason, he wanted to be on it, hurts him tremendously. And they've got to try to stop Leslie Shepard, Michael Westbrook, 2 great receivers with the Redskins.
All right, Marv, let's take a look at our exclusive matchup breakdown here. The Giants, how do you see this team?
Well, first of all, I don't think the statistical differences make a great deal of difference between these two teams. They're pretty evenly matched in that regard. Except the Giants didn't give the ball away last year, and they took it away more than anyone else. That's important.
You know, Marv, the Redskins added Dana Stubblefield and Dan Wilkinson to strengthen a defense that was already giving up only an average of 18 points per ballgame. The big question is, can the offense, with a revamped offensive line, score more than 18 points? Experience tells me they'll be very, very inconsistent.
Marv, let's talk about keys to victory today for the Giants. How do you see it?
First of all, they have to exploit the running game. The Redskins have not been good against it in the preseason. They've given up an average of 160 yards per game. They give up 230 against the Bills in their final preseason game. On defense, Conrad Hamilton has to step in and fill the shoes of Jason Sehorn. He has to try and stop Michael Westbrook. That's quite a task.
What about players to watch? Who, in your opinion, do you think we should really keep our eyes open for today?
Well, let's start with the quarterback, Danny Cannell. He had a fine season last year. He's got some solid wideouts in Ike Hilliard, returning from an injury, Chris Callaway, and a vastly improved Amani Toomer. Danny was 7-2-1 last year as a starter. Charles Way led the Giants in combined yardage in 1997. He's going to have to spearhead the running game. As I mentioned, Hilliard's back, and he is their breakaway threat.
Sam, what about the Redskins? What do they have to do today to combat the Giants?
Well, you can bet on it. They're going to go after the 5'10" Conrad Hamilton, who's replacing Jason Sehorn. They can't go with as much one-on-one coverage as they could with Sehorn. And then on the other side of the ball, the defense, of course, has to stop the running game and force Danny Cannell to beat him. Now, only Charles Way was really impressive in the preseason with a run, though.
What about players to watch? Who are we really looking out for today?
Well, the Redskins must spring running back Terry Allen, who's coming off an injury but led the league in rushing in 1996. 21 touchdowns, a big number. Westbrook had 9 catches against these guys, and Dana Stubblefield anchors that defensive line, but he frees up Ken Harvey to make some one-on-one rushes.
Now, there is some late-breaking news with regards to the Washington Redskins quarterback situation. For that information, we go to the Sportsline newsroom and our insider, Ray Buck. Ray.
Yeah, in Washington, Gus Frerotte is already on the hot seat. Coach Norv Turner is not happy with he's playing, and he vows to make a quarterback change if Frerotte begins to fade. Norv, you may want to wait a while. You start the season with Jeff Hostetler with a knee injury. Your number 2 quarterback is Trent Green. In 4 seasons, Trent Green has thrown exactly 1 pass. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks very much, Ray. Now, our next game is a big NFC Central matchup. Defending NFC champion Green Bay, they play host to Barry Sanders and the Detroit Lions. Jennifer, let's find out about the weather.
September is the best time of year to play in Green Bay. At game time, the sky should be partly cloudy and a temperature of 81 degrees. Be sure to check the website for up-to-the-minute information. Scott, the Packers have won 23 straight at home.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, let's talk about injuries, Sam. Matt Russell, the linebacker for the Detroit Lions, he's gone for the season.
Well, Russell was slated to help fill the void left by Reggie Brown's tragic career-ending injury. Enter Alan Aldridge from the Denver Broncos.
Okay, Sam, now let's talk about how these two teams match up.
You know, they match up pretty evenly. The difference is Robert Brooks is a month away from back surgery. Dorsey Levens just showed up last Monday for practice. I don't think they can go hard for 4 quarters.
The Packer run defense is somewhat suspect, and who better to exploit that than the great Barry Sanders? That's what they'll try to do.
Sam, what do you think the Packers have to do today to win this game?
Well, they're the old West Coast offense with Brett Favre and Freeman, Brooks, Mays, Chimura, all those guys going against the young defensive backs of Westbrook and Abram. But, you know, on the other side of the ball, Barry Sanders is such a great runner. You have to play zone defense against him because if you don't have everybody looking back to come in there and help make the tackle, he'll squirt free and beat you.
All right, now when we watch this game, who are we looking for? Key players that we're looking for.
Dorsey Levens has been in camp for just 1 week, but he is the key to the running game and allows Brett Favre to have freedom to throw. See, Dorsey Levens has at 1,400 yards. I don't expect him to have that kind of a day on opening day. Robert Brooks, 14 catches in 2 games a year ago. Brett Favre, that's a lot of numbers, 475 yards, but 4 interceptions against this team. Interceptions kill you.
Marv, how about the Detroit Lions? What do you think about this team?
Well, they have their work cut out for them against the Packers. Their offensive line is going to have to block for Barry Sanders if he's going to move the ball, and they got to protect Scott Mitchell, who's not real mobile. Robert Porcher and company have to put pressure on Brett Favre, too.
All right, Coach, what about the key players? Who are we really looking for in this game?
Well, Barry Sanders, of course, potentially, not just potentially. He is the most dangerous offensive player in the game today, and the Lions need him to perform every day they win. 250 yards almost against the Packers last year. Herman Moore, that stuff on grass, not on grass, doesn't mean much to me. He can catch the ball. He's a threat. Scott Mitchell, he threw 4 interceptions against Green Bay to balance the 4 that Favre threw. That's why they split.
2 big interdivision matchups to start us off, but there is lots more to come, so stay with us on Football Playbook.
The John Gruden era kicks off in Kansas City. The Raiders and Chiefs coming up next.
Welcome back to Football Playbook. I'm Scott Kaplan along with Coach Sam Wyche and Coach Marv Levy. We're going to take a look at our next game now. Guys, you are going to really love this because you're 2 sophisticated, mature coaches. The Oakland Raiders feature the youngest coach in the National Football League. That's John Gruden. He's 35 years old. He's taken his Oakland Raiders into Kansas City. With a look at conditions, here's Jennifer standing by in the Weather Center. Jennifer.
Scott, rain is possible tonight in Kansas City, which could make the field slick. Temperatures should be in the 70s. And gentlemen, the Raiders have not won an Arrowhead since 1988. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Sam, let's start talking about this game, and let's start with the injury situation. In Kansas City, both starting wide receivers are banged up.
And 2 impacting injuries. Andre Rison has a hamstring problem. Derek Alexander is nursing a sore rib cage. He's doubtful for today. Rison is probable to play, but downgrade his effectiveness.
All right, let's talk about the Oakland Raiders, Marvin. Let's talk about how these 2 teams match up.
Well, this is a new era. Kansas City has dominated this series for many years. However, in comes John Gruden. Out goes the vertical pass attack and the West Coast offense. Let's see.
For the Chiefs, Marcus Allen. There's a symbol of their team. Let me tell you, you miss a guy on the field and in the locker room when he leaves.
Sam, what do the Chiefs have to do today to win this game?
Well, Elvis Gerbach's got to have a hot day. You know, in the preseason, the first offensive unit only scored 3 times in 5 games and only had 1 sustained drive. Donnell Bennett's got to replace Marcus Allen. On defense, they've got to pressure Jeff George and contain Napoleon Kaufman. Chester McLaughlin's already injured. Leslie O'Neal and Derek Thomas, they've got to pull all the weight on defense.
Yeah, now a lot of people really love the Chiefs at the beginning of the season. As far as the players to watch, who do you like?
Well, even injured players like Andre Rison still have to be the key. He's a big play threat. He caught 72 balls last year. Andre Rison, almost 20 yards a catch against the Oakland Raiders. Donnell Bennett, of course, we've already mentioned, has to come in and replace Hill and Allen. And Derek Thomas had only 1 sack last year against the Raiders, but he wasn't healthy. This year he is.
Marv, what about the Raiders?
Well, they've racked up impressive statistics, but they have to be able to run the ball. That means Napoleon Kaufman for 4 strong quarters during the game, and Jeff George has to play with discipline in the new offense. On defense, the Heisman Trophy winner, Charles Woodson, has to step in, and he needs to stop Andre Rison. Big job.
Okay, now we're talking about a couple of names here. Tell us who you think are the key players to keep our eyes on.
Well, as I mentioned, the Raiders are loaded with offensive talent. Tim Brown led the AFC in receptions last year. He is really a game breaker. Had no TDs against Kansas City last year. That doesn't mean a thing. James Jett had 12 touchdowns. He led the team. And Charles Woodson steps in. He has to lead that secondary.
Make sure you stay with us, because coming up later on in the show, the coaches and I are going to make our selections in the pick segment. But coming up first, the black and blue matchup in Minnesota. The Vikings are going to play host to Tony Dungy and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the game's going to be played inside the Metrodome, so weather is not going to be a factor. Both teams come in healthy, although there is a concern about the Vikings quarterback Brad Johnson. He's recovering from a sore neck from last season. So let's take a look at how these two teams match up, starting with the Bucs, Sam.
Well, you know, they're a road-weary team. They're building a new stadium down there. They played all the preseason games in a row. This is their 6th in a row, but they're one of the fastest teams in the National Football League, and they're playing on AstroTurf.
Here's my first fearless forecast along the way. I think the Vikings will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl game this year. I think they've got it all. Great team.
Sam, you know this Bucs organization, and for them to prove that they belong atop the NFC Central, what are they going to have to do to start it off today against Minnesota?
Well, on offense, it starts with Trent Dilfer. He needs to have that big day and be one of those championship quarterbacks that makes a good play out of a bad call. On defense, they've got to stop the big three of Carter, Reed, and Moss. And really the best way to do that, I think, is Warren Sapp. This is a tremendous football player, and if you don't have time to throw the ball to him, they can't move the ball.
All right, now Trent Dilfer is a guy you know all about. You drafted him out of college. Talk to us about other people we need to be looking for the Bucs.
Well, the backfield of Warwick Dunn and Mike Allstott, arguably the best young backfield in the National Football League. 17 touchdowns between them. Trent Dilfer, I think, is a player. It doesn't matter whether he's inside or outside. He's got to put the ball on the money for him. And Warren Sapp, believe me, he plays just as well inside as he does on grass.
Marv, what do the Vikings need to do today to win?
Well, the strength of the Buccaneers is their defense. Nevertheless, the Vikings have to establish a running game with Robert Smith to open up the passing game to their great receivers. On defense, they have to stop that great backfield of Dunn and Mike Allstott.
All right, now we're gonna see a lot of scoring from the Minnesota Vikings. Who are we looking for to do some of that scoring?
Well, let's start with a guy that does a lot of it, Chris Carter, the quintessential wide receiver. He led the NFL in touchdown receptions last year. He has 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He had 13 touchdowns a year ago. Brad Johnson, he's going to be very important now. He comes back off of that neck injury. And if I were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'd be watching John Randall, particularly if I were Trent Dilfer. He can get you on your back.
Ray Buck is in the Sportsline USA newsroom. He's got some news concerning Vikings coach Denny Green. Ray, take it away.
Yeah, Vikings new owner Red McCombs may be quick to pull the trigger on Denny Green. Green is in the final year of his contract. McCombs won't even talk contract till this season is over. Watch out, Denny. This is the same guy who, when he was owner of the San Antonio Spurs 6 years ago, fired Jerry Tarkanian 20 games into that season. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, Ray. Much more to come, so stay tuned. Football Playbook is coming right back.
Monday night in Mile High, Patriots and Broncos, next.
Welcome back to Football Playbook, everyone. Along with Coach Sam Wyche and Coach Marv Levy, I'm Scott Kaplan, and there is a huge game today happening in the Bay Area. Bill Parcells and his New York Jets are going to help bring CBS Sports back into the National Football League. They're going to face the 49ers today. It is the marquee game of the day for the network. For a look at the weather in the Bay Area, here's Jennifer.
Thanks, Scott. It should be a gorgeous day today in the Bay Area. Skies will be partly sunny and temperatures in the 70s. And guys, the 49ers are 6-1 lifetime against the Jets. Scott?
All right, Jennifer, thank you very much. Now, Marv, let's take a look at the injury situation. Injuries on both the 49ers side and the Jets side.
Very meaningful, but the 49ers get Jerry Rice back. He's coming back from 2 knee injuries. Let's see how he does. Gabe Wilkins, the defensive tackle they procured in the offseason, he's out for San Francisco. And a big loss for the Jets. Marvin Jones, the starting linebacker, out for the season.
All right, stats galore in this game. Really, matchup breakdown tells the whole story.
Yes, it does, but what the Jets really want to do is run that football. That's why they got Curtis Martin. Foley is an unknown, too.
Hey, Marv, the 49ers are going to go after 2 rookies on the Jets squad. Jason Fabini, Bill Parcells loves him. He'll tackle on the right side going against one of the best defenses in football. And Kevin Williams, a free safety, he's got to meet Rice, Stokes, and Owens for his opening game in the NFL.
Marv, the Jets really have a big test today.
Yes, they do, but they have a talented football team, and they've added to that talent on offense by bringing in Curtis Martin, and they have to be able to run the ball. On defense, they have to take advantage of a patchwork offensive line that the 49ers have. They let Hugh Douglas go, but they've got to get pressure on Steve Young.
All right, true, the Jets are going to rely a lot on the running of Curtis Martin. Other guys maybe you see, Coach, that we should be looking for?
Well, the key to this team is Curtis Martin. He's flourished under Bill Parcells' system. 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Now, Glenn Foley, this is his first opportunity as a full-time starter, and a great burden rests on his shoulders. Because Sean Johnson can test that tough 49er secondary, but he's hot and cold, but look out when he's hot.
Sam, what about Steve Mariucci, San Francisco 49ers?
Well, here's the original West Coast offense with Steve Young, but he had 3 concussions in 10 months a year ago. In comes Ty Detmer because he has experience in Philadelphia and Green Bay with it. On defense, they have to shut down the running game and make Foley be the guy that beats you when you're on the field out there. But they lost 4 players that had 27.5 sacks a year ago. More pressure on Bryant Young. All
right, West Coast offense, you're always talking about the quarterbacks, a short passing game. Who else are we looking for?
Well, as Steve Young goes, so go the 49ers. Young was injured his wrist here in the preseason game against Miami. He should be ready to go. But if he goes down, Ty Detmer, a lot of pressure on him. And we'll look at these stats. They're all offensive stats, but people forget that this is the #1 or one of the #1 defenses in the National Football League. They keep that offense in the game.
Remember, you can get all of today's information online at our website. It's www.footballplaybook.com. Let's move on, guys, to our next game. It's the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. They're going to play host to Drew Bledsoe and the New England Patriots. For a look at the conditions in the Mile High City, we're going to check in with Jennifer.
Tomorrow night in Denver, AccuWeather is calling for clear skies and temperatures near 80 degrees. Now be sure to check out our website for the latest conditions. And Scott, New England hasn't won a game in Denver since 1968.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sam, let's talk about the injury situation as it applies to the Denver Broncos.
Well, they've got a couple here. Now, defensive end Alfred Williams is out. Backup quarterback Jeff Lewis is out. That means that Bubby Brister is going to back up John Elway today.
All right, let's see how these two powerhouses match up in the AFC.
Well, you know, they match up very well. 2 good football teams. But I feel for Pete Carroll a little bit here. Here's a guy who keeps hearing that he's got the best talent in his division, best talent maybe in the AFC. He plays a lot of good football teams, but it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the coach.
Well, speaking about a lot of talented teams that he's playing, the Denver Broncos are one. They're the team I am picking to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. And, Sam, I didn't know that there was pressure on coaches.
Just a little.
Sam, what are the keys for victory today for New England?
Well, the first thing, of course, is to find that running back to replace Curtis Martin. He's going to be Cedric Shaw, Derek Cullors, and the guy I think it'll be is a #1 pick out of Georgia, Robert Edwards. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it's to slow down Terrell Davis. Here's a factoid for you. Denver has outscored New England 105 points to 24 in the last 3 games. That means New England's not running the ball. They're throwing to catch up.
All right, now you've talked to us about the amount of talent that New England has on this team. Tell us who we really should be looking for today.
Well, the Patriot team rests on the right arm of Drew Bledsoe. He threw for over 3,700 yards and 28 TDs last season, and he's the linchpin of this team. But Robert Edwards has got to emerge to replace Curtis Martin, as we've said, and then Terry Glenn just got to stay healthy. He's his #1 target.
Marv, what are the keys to victory for the Denver Broncos?
The Broncos have had great success against the Patriots. They're going to try and exploit that young secondary, but they will not abandon, of course, Terrell Davis. What a great player. On defense, they got to stop Terry Glenn. He's a game breaker. And Ben Coates is one of the 2 best tight ends in the league. The other one is on the Broncos roster.
All right, you mentioned Terrell Davis. We know he's the premier running back in the National Football League. Who else do you think we should check out?
Well, of course, John Elway. Can he continue to elude Father Time? He can elude rushers, I'll tell you that. He threw for a high 27 touchdowns last year. He had a couple of interceptions against the Patriots. It didn't mean much. Terrell Davis, 171 yards. And Shannon Sharp, that's the other great tight end in the league. 17 yards per catch for a tight end. That's terrific.
You'll want to stay tuned for what's next on Football Playbook. Stick with us.
Marv, Sam, and Scott go head-to-head. Their picks up next on Football Playbook.
Welcome back to Football Playbook, along with the coaches Sam Wyche and Marv Levy. I'm Scott Kaplan, and now's the opportunity where we get to see if either of our coaches here are going to swing from a limb and maybe make some outrageous predictions on the games today. In the 1 o'clock hour on the East Coast, the marquee matchup today, gentlemen, a game we've selected is Pittsburgh going into Baltimore. I know I'm going to take Baltimore, Sam. What do you think?
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, and Baltimore's had a great preseason, but they've still got Jerome Bettis. He's driving the bus as well as ever. Cordell Stewart's still a year older and throwing the ball beautifully, I believe. And, of course, Bill Cowher's making millions of bucks now.
Well, he is doing that. Baltimore, Ted Marchibroda and Jim Harbaugh, marriage made in heaven. They're playing great. They're on the come. Pittsburgh has lost a lot of defensive players. How many can they keep losing? All that said, I'm picking Pittsburgh.
All right, guys. Both guys have Pittsburgh. I've got Baltimore. 4 o'clock action now on the East Coast. Dallas will host Arizona. Dallas hadn't won a game in the preseason. I'm still taking Dallas. What about you, Sam?
Well, I'm going with Arizona because I think Jake Plummer is the guy they needed to kick themselves into a winning position. He reminds me of Joe Montana. I had him in 1979 when he came in as a rookie. Jake Plummer has the same gait.
I remember that Joe Montana fella myself. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I think they've got too much talent. That 05 preseason doesn't mean a thing. They're at home. I think they're ready to roll.
Okay, coaches, now let's take a look at who we liked in our feature games today. The Giants, Sam, at home against the Redskins. I like the Giants. What about you?
I like the Giants as well. Redskins are better, still have that quarterback problem, but the New York Giants will continue like they did last year.
Make it 3 votes for the Giants until the Redskins can show me they can stop the run.
All right, next game, Lions going to Green Bay. Lambeau's always a tough place to play. You got to like the Pack here.
Well, I do. I like them anywhere, but especially at home. Detroit, though, is a team that can beat anybody all during the year. It's up to Scott Mitchell.
Detroit is sound and tough, but Green Bay is almost impossible to trounce at home, and I have to go with them, too.
All right, John Gruden, the youngest coach in the NFL. We've talked about him. He goes to see Marty Schottenheimer's Chiefs. I'm going to take the Raiders here in John Gruden's first game as an NFL head coach.
In Kansas City?
Absolutely.
There are lots of folks screaming against you down there. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders do look like a different football team, though.
I think the Chiefs are better, and I also think that is the toughest stadium to play in when you come in as a visitor. I'm with Kansas City.
Okay, Tampa Bay goes to Minnesota. They're going to play this one indoors, Sam. Tampa Bay is a team you know very, very well. I'm going to take Minnesota here because of the high-powered offense. What about you?
Well, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're going to have a super year, if you catch my inflection on that one. And they're too much speed, and I think Minnesota is going to give them a good ball game, but Tampa Bay.
Minnesota, to me, is the premier team in the NFC. They're at home. Tampa Bay's been on the road so long that I think that's going to really hurt them. I go with the Vikings.
Okay, Bill Parcells really improved the New York Jets last year. He's got to take them all the way out to San Francisco, though. I'm going to go with the Niners here. Safe bet.
You know, the Niners ought to win it, but they lost in Tampa Bay in their home opener a year ago. That was kind of playing in the back of their mind, but I don't think the Jets are quite good enough.
I think they're pretty darn good, but I don't think they're quite good enough in this opener of that trip from coast to coast to get over the hump. I'm going with the 49ers also.
Okay, and then Monday night, the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, they're going to play host to New England. You got to like Denver, all the enthusiasm going on at Mile High Stadium.
Too much going on with Denver. They are out to repeat, and playing at home, another one of those tough stadiums to play in, Marv.
Absolutely, and I'm going with the Broncos for all the reasons which I mentioned during our analysis.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Now, I want to remind everybody to check out our website for all the latest news, information, weather, and all kinds of other great things. It's www.footballplaybook.com. I want to thank you, Sam, for being here with us. We had a great time today.
Oh, me too.
All right, and Marv, outstanding to work with you, sir.
It was fun.
All right, we also have to thank Jennifer Cole for doing an outstanding job with our weather. For everybody here at Football Playbook, we hope you all come back with us next Sunday. Have a great football afternoon.